Colonel, you better take a look at this radar.
What is it, son?
I don't know, sir, but it looks like a giant...
Dick!
Yeah.
Take a look out of starboard.
Oh my God, it looks like a huge...
Pecker!
Oh, where?
Wait, that's not a woodpecker. It looks like someone's...
Privates! We have reports of an unidentified flying object. It is a long, smooth shaft, complete with 2 balls.
What is that? That looks just like an enormous...
Wing. Pay attention.
I was distracted by that enormous flying...
Willie. Yeah. What's that? Well, it looks like a giant...
Johnson! Yes, sir.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another week of Muskies on Tap. I am one of your hosts tonight, Gus Mantey. We are bringing to you episode 108 on this brisk, kind of semi-brisk, cold, rainy, early June evening. And we got a lot packed in to this, late spring episode. We have a couple segments going on, lots of great information. We're doing this intro right after we got done with some of these interviews that we just had. But before we kind of talk about that, let's get the other Mott members here introduced. Let's go with Brian first. Brian, how are you doing? I see you got the mic in front of you. You're ready to go. You came off of a weekend out on the town, how's it going? How are you feeling?
I'm good. I didn't do any fishing like you two this past weekend. I golfed all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A lot of lashing, a lot of money spent on golf. I forget in the summer how much more money I spend relative to the winter just from golf.
Wow.
It's like $100 here, $100 there.
Sure.
So I gotta watch that. I don't need to go out there and lash every day.
Join a course. Why don't you join a league
then
or
it's just
something?
like a big, $4,000 lump sum. I don't want to do that either. I don't know. Whatever.
Make more sense.
It was a good time. Got a little suntan. It was hot and muggy down here for the most part. A little bit of rain today.
Sure.
But yeah, I think I was golfing Saturday, and I kept getting a couple pictures from you, Max. Looked like you had a warm welcome to Minnesota opener.
Yeah. Good to be on with you here, fellas. A lot of excitement here this past week. I was able to get out on Saturday for the Minnesota Musky opener with our friend Mr. Ryan Becker, who we met down at Cave Run during the PMTT. I had a great day, man. It was so fun to be out there chasing some blondies again. We're able to get a few fish in the boat, and had a blast while doing it. We got to put in a full day, and just had a great time. So good to see you, fellas. Let's dive in here. What do we want to start out with? I think probably don't want to bury the lead too deep here. A little milestone in the Mott cruise. I guess it's like a milestone was hit this past week. I'm sure people have seen it circulated on the interwebs, but our dad, who will be featured here on this podcast with the full story being told, crossed the old red line in northern Wisconsin. And Gus, I mean, man, good stuff. That was very cool.
Yeah, I still, like I've said to some people, I just can't fully comprehend what happened. In the moment, it was just so insane. We've been fishing all our lives. To us, for sure, we know, and a lot of people that listen to this podcast who do fish Wisconsin and specifically northern inland, because, that's just kind of the place in Wisconsin where hitting that red line is quite difficult. And, we just didn't know when it was going to happen or ever. You never know. I mean, it could just evade us. And I wasn't ever going to guess early June on a post-frontal day, off moon.
Yeah.
So it happened at a crazy, crazy turn of events. Our dad hops on the podcast and he does an insanely good job talking about the story. I mean, it's like he's a natural of being a podcaster. And
from listening to you yap for the last 100 episodes.
Oh, cripes. Yeah, I know, right? But no, does a phenomenal job. So we'll get, our very own Rich Mantey on the podcast to talk about a very, very large fish. So we'll leave it at that. We don't want to spill too many details for those that maybe didn't see the picture or anything, that don't follow our socials, Muskies on Tap or Suggs Fishing on Facebook and Instagram. So be sure to check that out too if you enjoy the story that unfolds here. So without further ado, we're gonna let that interview go first, but then please stay tuned for Taps and Tackle. We're having Matt and Jozef on right afterwards, and we have a great discussion about a lot of Wisconsin River stuff. We talk a lot about pit tags and readers and really cool information. They have a lot of new renovations or remodels, I should say, to their shop down in Stevens Point. So stay tuned for that, and we will, if you guys got anything else to add there, we'll just let that first one rip.
All right. Well, I'm sure most of you that are listening here have seen the pictures and heard about the day that my brother and dad had. So we had to bring him on, Rich Mantey, in the house to tell the story of the 51.5-inch inland Wisconsin beast. First off, Dad, how we doing? Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, boys. It's been a long time in coming. Not on the podcast, but the fish. My God, I mean, to 19, so what, 45 years? So almost as long to get on the podcast, but happy to be with you guys right now. Thank
We
you for
are
inviting me.
No problem, no problem. Yeah, no, it's awesome to have you on here and be able to kind of relive this story with you guys. Obviously, I wasn't there in the boat with you, but I think let's kind of hear it firsthand from your guys' perspective. Bring everybody on board, So pretty incredible day. Either Gus or Dad, if you guys want to kick it off. Anything peculiar about that day? Thinking it was big fishy or just another day in the North Woods?
No, I'd say it's just another post-frontal early June day in the North Woods. Pretty unassuming.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the we were going to go on Tuesday,
Yeah.
and then we had the typical Chamber of Commerce forecast was wrong, and we couldn't we thought it was gonna we were in Monday Night Muskie League and we thought it was gonna be raining by 8 a.m. So we thought, we're gonna sleep in and we got up kind of late and lazy and didn't make any decisions to go out, and we just said we'd go out Wednesday. And of course, Wednesday is post frontal and high sky. And I mean, what was northwest wind? Was it, or southwest wind at the start? And it switched around.
It switched around 4 times.
Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting day. So we were really just, I mean, other than the fact that we enjoy, fishing together and as I do with, you as well, Max, when the three of us get in, it was just going to be a day, and it turned out to be a day.
And it turned out to be almost like the day,
Right.
which we had no idea. I mean, we haven't had a fish of that caliber pinned in years up here. I mean, and probably only possibly one other fish that we can all think of that we all saw on a certain day, of that size that we did end up losing many, many years ago. So they're few and far between. I figured if I was going to be on the water all the time that eventually it would happen up north here in Vilas County, but I didn't think it would happen in early June on a pretty crummy, weather day. So
yeah, it was it was a pretty bold start. I mean, if we were rolling through the first spot, and I think Gus got one fired up in the first, I don't know, 5-6 casts.
It was short. Yeah, it was quite quick because we got out there at the start of, honestly, it was either at the start of around peak moon or at the end. So we kind of like just took the tail end of that, and I lost one on a swim fin way out in the cast, and I actually brought it up, and the hook was jammed backwards. It headshot the bait and just totally smashed the hook in the other direction. if that makes any sense. Like basically if it had the bait in the front of its mouth and I set the hook, I think all I got were the couple head shakes of the fish holding on to the bait and then it let go. So that's exactly what it felt like. The hook was facing the wrong direction. So that was unfortunate. I already came off of a couple, larger fish losses to start the season and a couple tough days. So I'm like, all right, it's going to be one of those days. We need ourselves a slump buster.
Yeah, well, we were trying to figure out, the bite, and so Gus was it rubber? What is it? Was it bucktails? We looked at the water temperature and we thought, maybe bucktails. But at first I said, well, I mean, let's try to figure this out a little bit. So I asked Gus to grab me a bucktail, and I'm not exactly sure which one you put on it
I
to
think it
start.
was a Mayhem single
Yeah,
girl.
yeah. Yeah, and we rolled through the rest of that spot and then on to another. But we were fishing, fairly
We were
deep
going we
edges.
were going back and forth between deep and shallower edges and mainly looking at the deeper parts of the structure. I'm not really sure why, other than bait was holding there. That was
Yeah.
about the only reason. I think that's why rubber got bit. But then since I got bit on rubber right away, I stuck to it for a while, and you switched around with the
Yeah,
blade.
yeah, a couple blades that you had me choosing between, but you know how you get in, you're throwing something, and then it just didn't feel like it was going to get down to the depths where these fish were, and they were, I don't know, how you get that. I had that. I just wanted to get something down a little bit deeper. I know a muskie can come up 10, 15 feet in a heartbeat, but it just felt like it wasn't going to attract them. And so I said to Gus, I said, "Hey, I'm open to anything," and I picked out a pit bull, and he said, "Oh yeah, that's good. Give that a shot." And I ripped that thing a few times, and I thought to myself, man, if I'm going to be doing this for 5.5 hours, this ain't going to work. So,
Yeah.
so I mean, I'm not your guys' caliber of ripping rubber. So I said, hey, pick something out for me, and he knew the forage and in the bait that was there, and he said, oh my God, I got one. He starts digging through his box and pulls out I mean,
It's well, I'll say it. I would give him a shout out. I pulled out a Leo Lures crankbait, and I got that over the winter. I just really liked the paint jobs from him, and I heard him on the hunks, and I was like, I gotta try some of these. So I got one that was like a chartreuse carbon perch, classic, and then the other one was like a sunfish pattern, like really bright, gaudy, with a little blue and gold in there. And I'm like, well, let's give this one a shot. There's panfish in here. Well, every lake's got panfish, but we see them at the launch, so it's like, all right, well, we know that's
yeah.
we know that's a forage for sure out here.
Yeah,
It's
backing in the boat and they're hanging out by the timber, and it's just kind of funny.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, I started throwing that bait, and just the vibration in the pole and the reel and everything it just felt so much better, and that would, I would reel it in and I couldn't see it until it just started, got within, I don't know, 15 feet of the boat or so. It started coming out of the depths, and I just felt that was getting down to the level that we needed it to get down to.
Yeah.
Sure, sure. So you lose the one right away in the morning, but then obviously things started going pretty crazy. So, for myself, I know something happened on the water when I'm sitting at work at 10 in the morning or whenever it was, and I get a call from Gus, who never calls me when he's on the water, and
Correct.
no service. So I'm like, oh, geez, what's going on? And I see Gus calls me again and don't hear him. I'm like, man, like, did somebody die? Like, what's going on here? Is there, there an issue? And then I see my dad calls me. I'm like, okay, something's going down. And when I finally got through to you guys pretty much just said we just had the craziest 20 minutes of musky fishing I think we'll ever have. And so take it away from there. Let's get into the good stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'd been a minute since I had a a follow, and I'm reeling in this Leo, and behind it is a really nice fish, and it's pretty fired up. Gus has got in the coaching box teaching me, hey, come on, you gotta hang it out here and slow it down and then rip it across, and so I'm it's the first fish of the year. It's the first fish I saw this year, really, and so I got I think in my mind, a mid 40s behind it. It's a nice looking fish, and I'm going into the eight, and I'm a little bit anxious, right? So my eights are not real wide. They're a little bit tight. I got a 10-foot pole in my hand. My heart's going 1,000 miles an hour, and I'm watching this fish, and it was very, very bait curious. It really wanted to take a nip at this one, and every time it would orient itself to the bait, I would rip it back across its head, and then it would look up like, where the heck did that thing go? And then I would get it into the corner, and I'd hang it out there a little bit, and it would turn back around and go after it, and then I'd rip it across its head again, and I could just see, Gus, and and he's trying to be very encouraging, but at the same time, just like looking, what in the heck are you doing? And
Right.
I'm just, shaking, and I keep doing that. And I finally get my eight settled down a little bit, making much wider turns and slowing the hang a little bit. And the fish comes up, and it looks like it's going to eat. And I felt like the nip at the back, and I set the hook too early, again, anxious. And that fish, as Gus puts it, that thing went and sulked because it, missed the bait. And I'm standing there kind of, like, looking at Gus, and he's looking at me, and he wants to just be, positive, and he was, but he was also wants to be, it's a teaching lesson moment. And he said, hey, let me just show you what I was talking about on how it takes a while for that big fish to turn around, right? And relocate the bait. And so I was, every time it had a beat on it, I would rip it across its head, and then he would lose it again. So, I mean, he definitely wanted to eat that time, and he sunk away. And in my mind, I think I'm doing this perfect eight, and I'm envisioning this fish, just coming up and engulfing the bait, and I set the hook, and wild melee at the boat, and in the net it goes. But that wasn't the case. So away that fish went. It was kind of like, oh, now we're kind of 0 for 2, and
Yeah.
we had just come off of Monday Night Musky League, where we didn't see a single thing for 5 hours. So I'm like, oh, that's a great start, kind of that, and that's when I think you changed baits then and went to the
Uh,
Graham.
yeah, I went to a grandma because you had such a sizable fish on a crankbait. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna try that. It was gonna be either that or like a suic or some sort of dive and rise. And that was kind of my thought process there. It just felt like the bite maybe changed if it wasn't on moon, and it felt post frontal, and where we raised it off of moon, not as in not on moon. But yeah, that was a full learning lesson there on
Oh
that
yeah.
fish. But I would have to say it was difficult because it was like semi hot, but it was anywhere from like right behind your bait to like 5 feet behind your bait, because it was trying to make such wide turns itself, because the fish was so long that it couldn't make tight turns. So that was kind of the tough part. You're used to Eagle River chain 36 is flying around in the figure eight, 6 inches from your bait, and trying to
Yeah.
nip at it
Yeah, I
like
mean,
17 times. And this one's just like,
this is a double jointed, pretty big bait, and I'm used to,
yeah,
burning a smaller type bucktail that, that they're so aggressive they'll eat in the first turn of the eight usually, and so
Right.
I really haven't had to do, eight, multiple turns and multiple turns. I really haven't had to do that that often, and especially with a crankbait, and then the 10 foot rod. I mean, my God, I grew up on a 6500 with a 6 foot ugly stick. So, this is this is very different. I fished with it enough now, but it's still, I mean, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, yeah, different ball game. So Gus, you raise that fish, and then kind of take us through the
Mhm.
craziness, the eats, kind of what
Okay,
happened after that first one comes up.
so after that first one comes up, that happens. We're still bummed out, kind of wrapping around the spot, and I raised like a mid to upper 30s maybe that was super lazy on the grandma, and I'm like, all right, well, what if that was a tight bite window? That kind of sucks, typical cold water fishing. You get one chance, and then all of a sudden they all get lazy again for 4 hours. But no, then we keep wrapping around the spot, and as I'm getting to maybe actually kind of want to redo it and just think possibly that fish could eat again, even though it nipped, but it didn't dart away. It didn't get like fully stung. So I thought that there's always an opportunity. You just never know. You hear all the stories about people hooking and losing fish and then possibly, catching them that same day. So um, then all of a sudden I side image one that was almost directly below the boat, but still on the back side. So immediately in my head, I'm like, all right, well, we either just had a really late follow or we just accidentally drove right over a fish that's just kind of suspended out here. So
Mhm.
we both take a cast at it where, I point for us both to have a landmark. We chuck it out there. I bring in my bait gets to the boat first. Nothing. Dad gets in with that jointed crankbait, and it comes kind of flying in after him. And I'm like, oh my God, that's a big one. I'm like, we're getting kind of close to where you lost the one. I wonder if that's the same fish. And it goes around, I think, once.
Yeah.
It goes around once on you, and then burns off. Kind of unknown. I got no idea. So I think we each take like a pitch cast or two after that, and then I'm going through some more coaching things just because they kind of wanted to try and eat in the figure eight. These fish seemed like, but they didn't want it to just be fully straight retrieve the whole time. They wanted some sort of pause. So, um, coaching through that, maybe like another minute goes by, and then I turn the boat again to go fish the structure again, and I say to Dad, I'm like, oh, there it is, and so I take a cast as well, and he does again, and I'm thinking in my head like, well, I just took a cast right over this fish, like, I don't know, 2 minutes ago. There's probably no way it's gonna eat, and I'm just ripping the grandma at um like light speed almost, just giving it huge rips, not a ton of pauses, and about like 10, 12 feet from the boat, the thing comes out of absolute nowhere and just demolishes the bait. I mean, I say it in the video like, oh my God, the fish just demolished it, and I set the hook and it fully T-boned it off of one of the rips when the bait kind of hung to the side, and so I thought it was game on. This is a big fish. This is that fish that we just kind of had going around and nip before, and it just kind of moved a little bit. So that one dogs me under the boat like once or twice, and then we get it in the bag, and I'm like, oh hell yeah, that's a really nice fish. It's like a mid 40s or so. I'm not really sure, honestly. It's a post spawn fish, so it's not like it's a unit, but it's a really nice fish. And so I take it out of the net, and Dad is just taking regular pictures on the phone. I kind of have some the big camera footage rolling, and I just do pictures first, and I just hold it up. I'm like, oh man, this is a awesome fish. Really, really pumped about this. And then I slap it on the board, and lo and behold, it's a 1/4 inch over my PB. So I'm like super pumped. It's a 48.5. I'm like, let's go. This is a huge fish. This is the biggest fish we've ever landed in June, and it's my personal best. I'm like, the day got a lot better. We finally boated one. It started to feel impossible. Like even if we were getting the bites, we just couldn't land them, and it's. But so we were high fiving after that.
Yeah. So mind you, all of this that we've talked about is taking place in about
This is still in like the first 15 minutes
minutes
since.
since I had that one in the figure eight. This has all been going on for about 15 minutes. So Gus does the measurements and gets we do the video and the camera work and gets it back in the water, and it swims off, and I think we're floating near, because we've kind of kind of spot locked, but we've drifted a little bit, and we ended up just about back to the spot where I raised that, the fish I had in the figure eight. Right? Didn't we get just about back?
Yeah, still like maybe a cast and a half away from it, and I was just like, well, it's either we just try a couple more casts where it was and just see if I was, not mistaken that it might come back and eat again, or we just, continue to the next spot. But I'm like, well, you might as well.
Well, the thing of it is we weren't certain that wasn't the fish that Gus caught. We weren't certain that wasn't the fish that I had up in the eight. We weren't thinking that we were pretty positive it was. I mean, we were not thinking, in our mind, we're not thinking that there's two fish like that within, I don't know,
100, 150 feet of each other,
yeah,
maybe.
we're like, that's not that wasn't going through our mind at the time. And
No.
so we're casting and we're talking and then that fish comes screaming in on Gus again. The fish I had in the eight, and Gus is like, "Holy crap! That's that fish." And he goes into the figure eight, and he's like, and that fish is fired up, and he goes into the eight, and so I'm in the front of the boat, so I had just casted, so I'm just grinding my bait in as hard as I can, because I think he's gonna eat, and I want to get to the net, because this is happening at our feet. And then as I'm grinding that in, all of a sudden Gus looks at me and goes, "Oh, he likes your bait a lot better because he just broke off this one and went after yours." So I stick he's like, and it's pretty deep. So Gus is like, jam that pole in the water and start doing the eight, pretty deep. And I did one turn in the eight, and that fish probably thought, you know what? I've seen this game before. I'm not going to have this guy rip this across my head anymore. And it just kind of rolled off the front of the boat, right? And we were just kind of like looking at each other going, and I just bomb cast it towards the direction it's going. And I think in the video I'm saying, man, I sure hope these fish get the memo that they're supposed to eat out in the cast. And right when I said that, that fish smoked it. I mean,
they could hit it going the other way.
It hit it going the other way, and I think in my normal state I either went or got it or whatever, right? Whatever you guys give me a hard time about, I did one of those, right? And
Gut punch.
It felt substantial, and Gus said he wasn't even going to bring in his bait because he had just cast it as well. So there's a grandma floating around out there, and this fish I think is swimming at us because while it feels very heavy, there's not a lot going on at the moment, and all of a sudden it gets to within, I don't know, I have to look at the video because I'm blacking out now a little bit because it looks like it's pretty sizable. It's kind of doing the thrashing as Gus gets the net down, and Gus gets it about 2/3 into the basket, and I just, I don't want to do anything, but I just back up a couple of steps, and it flopped in, and I think I made mention of something like, "Oh, that was a exciting net job," or something like that, and Gus is like, looks at me and goes, "Well, because it wouldn't fucking fit in the whole bag, something along
it curled in there,
right?
yeah.
It just curled in there, and so I'm looking at it in the bag, and I'm pretty stoked, and we're high-fiving, and we're thinking, oh man, we're just this is insane. And so we've got the Gus's camera work, so he's going to work with the tools, and getting that fish unpinned, and
it came off in the net actually when it thrashed. It was hooked really well, but it came off in the net because it thrashed really hard.
Yeah, so I'm getting the camera stuff set up, and I'm pretty jacked up, I'm pretty pumped up, and we're yelling and high-fiving and really enjoying the moment, and I'm like, oh man, I just got my PB casting for sure, and I've still, because it's still in the bag, so I saw it come in, but I wasn't, and I'm thinking it's 46, 47. It felt like it looked like about the size of the fish that Gus caught. Maybe it didn't seem as big. and Gus afterwards told me, because he didn't want to say anything, he's looking at it in the bag going, man, I don't want to say the 50.
You don't throw around the 50 burger in northern Wisconsin very often. And if you do, then you might be just talking out of your ass, because it's not super common. But I could tell immediately in the bag that the head is like 2 inches longer than the other fish.
So I mean, he's looking at that, and he's getting. I wet up the bump board, put it up in the front, and I'm getting the cameras set up, and I'm snapping off pictures, and he pulls it out of the bag, and I kind of glance over at that, and I'm like, what? That's sizable. And he slops it on the bump board, and I'm looking. I come up to take a peek at the bump board, and I see the tail flash past the 50. and I don't think he's got it. I don't think he's got it nosed in yet, right? I mean,
right.
And I don't think it's set. And also I see him grabbing the back tail, so I know he's got it set. He's grabbing the tail and turning it left and right, up, down, the whole shot. And he's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. He goes 51 and a quarter, 51 and a quarter. Then he flips the tail the other way and he goes 51 and a half. And we're just like going, no way.
No shit.
We are so geeked and so stoked at this, because it's like, this is just unreal, really. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm at a loss for words at the time, and I think Gus was as well. And I said to Gus, I said, I don't think we should handle it. I mean, this is all really quickly. And I said, hey, let's not do the handoff or stuff, like, just the camera's running, everything's great, just pick it up. I'll get in the picture with you, and let's get this fish back in the water. So I think that all went pretty quickly, and the fish starts swimming away, and we're kind of looking at each other going, did that really just happen? And that's the time we started dialing you up, because we're like, oh, we got to talk to Max about this. And we started out with the story about the lost fish, and then Gus's 48 and a half, and you were super stoked at that, probably thinking it was that. And then,
well, that's what I thought. I was convinced that you guys were just saying like, oh, Gus got this, great big fish. So I was like, oh, hell yeah, nice job, Gus. And then you start going, well, and I was like, well, then what happened? And then I caught this other one. I'm like,
I think I dropped it like this to you after I said my, story of my fish, and didn't hint at really anything else. And then I'm like, oh, and then, Dad got a 51 and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, because when I finally got through to you guys, like, you didn't start off by saying like, we caught these two fish. You literally were just like, we have a story for you. And then you went through the whole thing. I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, it was too good. I was pacing around my office just like, this did not just happen. Come on. Like, Jesus
Didn't feel
Christ,
like it happened.
Man. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just super cool. It's going to be an expensive fish, Gonna have to have that one hanging in the boys' cabin, I'm thinking.
Never worries about that. I mean, I've been waiting for, I've been saving my money for a lot of years for that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
oh man.
I think we're good. I mean, it was just really a special moment, for me to be able to. I mean, I know, Max, you weren't in the boat with us, and it was, to share it with Gus, but I mean, that's why we had to jump on right away and get you, up to speed on what our excitement, and we both when we got off the phone, I looked at Gus and I said, well, I think Max was more excited than you and I are combined, because Gus and I are pretty, we're excitable, but pretty low key on that. And man, I think you must have said the word 51 and a half like 40 times. You kept going, you got a 51 and a half?
Yeah.
You couldn't believe it.
We couldn't believe it, right? I mean, we really couldn't believe it. And it was just kind of like, looking at each other going, are we supposed to go to the bar now?
Like, what do we do?
It's this 10:30.
Yeah.
We're like, well, like, if we do, we're gonna have to go knock on somebody's door. And I thought, no, let's just keep fishing. and see if we can just, maybe there's a 52 lurking around out here. I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, we got two more sizable fish that day.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a pretty incredible 4 hours. I mean,
Yeah, you
it's
guys were back home early and all in a day's work, literally. It was such a cool story, man. I'm so fired. I was so fired up for you guys. I mean, in my defense, I was hearing it for the first time. You guys had already released it and calmed down. I'm sure you guys were probably going nuts in the boat when that went past the red line. But yeah, no, I mean, I was like I said, I was just super pumped for you guys. We always said, one of these days it's gonna happen, right? Like you get the inland 50 and yes, the 50-inch mark is what it is, but in inland Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin particularly, it's like it doesn't happen to everybody and it doesn't happen very often. So when it does, it's like you got to celebrate it. It's a cool thing. And I
I think you said in our group text, you were like, I thought for sure the first 50 in the boat would be like barely at 50 because like they just
barely,
don't
right.
grow over 50.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
51.5 is going to be, it
Blew it
feels
out of the water.
impossible to beat that.
Yeah, just blew it out of the water. It's like that is truly a once in a lifetime fish in northern
Yeah.
Wisconsin. You know what I mean? It really is. Like
yeah. I mean,
congrats.
that's a unicorn. It's not a great lakes, or Minnesota. Those are a little bit more common, or some of the same. I mean, Canada, some of the areas up there, but for northern Wisconsin, I mean, that that's we've seen the 48s and the 49s, and it just feels like that 50 inch mark sometimes is just untouchable. Like they're just not going to get there. And again, when it hit the bag, I mean, Gus probably knew right away. I had no idea. He probably knew. He didn't know it was 51.5, but I think he in his mind he was thinking, this one's going to be close, boys, kind of thing. And it was, and it was an incredible story to share with you and now on the pod. And I just, I really want to also thank so many people who I've never met, don't know, follow you guys, listen to the pod, just reached out to me and some were private messaging me and everybody was very pumped that Musky community is just bar none the best. And I want to thank everybody for saying, good job and reaching out to me. And it really meant a lot. It was very special. And I do apologize. I don't have Facebook, so if anybody reached out on Facebook, and I'm not ghosting you, I just don't have Facebook, and I figure Gus took care of
It's all
probably
right.
some of those things, but
Not missing anything.
it was pretty special. I want to thank everybody. That was very kind of everyone.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's
How
awesome.
what were both of your hands doing once it was released? Could you hold them steady?
I don't know. We were searching for the
Crown apple.
for the crown apple. I mean,
Is
for
it
our-
spilling when
for
you were
our-
trying
for
to?
our boat, per the rules of our boat, when we bag a 45 or over, we got to take a shot of crown apple. So
Yeah, you made your own bar.
yeah,
Right. I
Found
do
your own
want to, we
bar.
didn't even mention this, but I know Dad kind of alluded to it that big fish that he had up was the first fish he's raised so far this season. So it ended up being his first fish of this season. Dad's last fish of last season was his PB, a 48 incher in November.
Jeez.
So he's got his last two fish are a 48 and a 51.5 in northern
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Max, you might need to get off the trail team. Put your spot up for grabs.
Well,
Seriously, this guy's just a
Bri-
big
hey,
fish magnet.
Brian, there's no way because I can cast for about an hour and a half, so that would never. That would
Apparently,
never
that's all you
fly.
need, though.
Yeah,
Indeed.
I mean, if you're
Apparently
catching
that's
upper
all I
40s
need,
and low 50s, it don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah, so
man,
I
too
thought
good.
that was pretty crazy if I think about that one, right? The last two
Yeah.
fish, PB 48, then PB 51.5. I'm like, all right,
I think you're done there.
Yeah, I think I got a.
Hang up
I
the
think
cleats.
a couple of people texted me and said I should just go to pan fishing now because it's over.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll
yeah.
get a
Right
St.
off in the
Lawrence
sunset.
trip.
Well, you know
Yeah.
what? I could pan fish and I could catch a bluegill and a 52 come and smoke it. So I suppose
Yeah.
there's that, right?
Yeah, there is that. There is that. No, that's a great story, guys, and man, so much fun. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. And it was good to make your debut on the pod with a hell of a story like that.
Yeah.
That's what we were just waiting for.
All you have to do is catch a 50-incher to get on the pod, man.
Apparently, that's
Easy
awesome.
task.
I can
Criteria.
come in some other time and tell some crazy stories about you three, but we'll save that for another day.
Maybe a cold
Awesome.
winter's night.
Nah, nobody wants to hear that.
Get me on in February, right, when you're searching
Yeah.
for gas.
Content
Yeah, there you
hungry.
go. You and Tadpole can get on together.
Oh no.
That'd be a good one.
You guys will get canceled.
Yeah.
It's impossible to get canceled. It's a podcast.
Oh my
man.
God. Too
Well,
good.
thank you guys for having me on and reliving that story. I've been thinking about it a long time. So
Yeah,
ever since it
we'll be
happened,
reliving that
thinking
for
about
a
it every
while.
day.
Yeah, we will. I can't wait to get back up there and start looking at which wall it's going to be hanging on for the forever,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Above the kitchen table, probably. Dangling. Get rid of the chandelier.
Yeah, I don't know that Kim's gonna let me that one go right in the main house, but we'll see. I think right over our headboard in our bedroom, right?
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Perfect
Good stuff.
decoration.
All right, man. Well, thanks for popping on, and yeah, hell of a story.
All right, take care, guys.
Thank you. All right.
Sweet.
All right, here on the line, we got the Taps and Tackle crew live from Taps and Tackle. We got Matt and Joseph. I'm going to ask right before, I know you're probably doing great. I see you got some beers in front of you. What are you sipping on, first off?
We got the same exact thing
Yeah,
tonight.
we do. Yep.
Polish Bloody Marys, so old style and clamato juice.
I think that's what you had on the first time. That's your go-to.
Well, I've been doing pretty much the same thing for 25 years, so yeah.
He got me hooked on it. I was never a fan, and he always had it, and I thought it was gross. And then I had one, I had another one, and then now it's just they're like something.
What's the mix?
Crazy.
Just beer, any beer, you can use whatever, but like a cheap lager and clamato juice. The
clamato.
What's the percentage of tomato to beer ratio though?
Depends.
I think that's important.
On how much salt. Like if you're craving salt, you got to go a little heavy on the clamato.
Yeah.
If you're not so bad.
Did you guys
just a dash? But I'm a quarters beer kind of guy.
Did you guys have the clamato mix at the Musky show?
We did.
Well, we did, but yeah. We weren't
definitely.
handing that out to anybody, though. You got to be in the know.
There's a few that know about it. Yeah, there's a few. They come by the booth, get their beer, and then they're kind of like standing there waiting for it. I'm like, oh, you're looking for the clamato.
You got to have the juice in there.
Yeah.
Good. What are you guys drinking tonight?
I got myself a Bell's Two-Hearted IPA.
I like one a lot.
It's super solid. Brian, Max, you guys?
I had my fair share of fixins last night. So I did have a whiskey 7 while I was golfing this afternoon. Just stopped at Shakes, and then I've been hydrating the rest of the night.
Jesus.
Solid balance.
I got some store-bought wine here. Wash down this pizza. So yeah, we're living good, guys. We are living good. All right, so let's get into it. So you guys have been doing some store renovations over there. Walk us through what the new digs are looking like.
So if you've been to our store previously in the past, 4 years, you kind of walk through our door. We had a kind of a wall that funneled you back to the bar. We took that wall down, and we've expanded from kind of one side into two, and we have absorbed the next space, which was the bottle stop, and we now have coolers full of beer, full fishing tackle displays, a nice big hole in the wall, so we'll have a lot of space, a lot of new things coming in the works. So pretty exciting stuff over here that we get to actually just kind of spread out, make our store more accessible, more shoppable, and give it a feel of an actual, a tackle shop that really, we have kind of aspired to be, and has gone the direction that we've really wanted it to go. So it's very exciting stuff.
Have you is all like the major construction done? Have you reached kind of the final vision for these renovations?
Pretty much, yeah. We got most of the drywall's done, the holes in there. That's all. That was the main thing, and we just got a little bit of finish work yet to do here.
We got finished work. We got some displays to come in. We have just some, we're about, I would say, 70% of the way there.
Yeah.
So the major stuff is done. All the major lifting is done. But we're excited to have our customers kind of come in, see our new store. Kind of planning the soft opening here towards the end of June.
Just talking about that. Yeah. We're going to have a few more spaces for people to hang out near the bar. Before it was a little cramped. We only had about 12 feet of bar space. And when I first started, I didn't even want bar stools in here because I didn't want people hanging around. But it's got a little different than that now. So we need a little more bar space. So now we got 18 feet of bar space, and we're going to have a couple tables where you can hang out at, and big Garmin display coming in, and we got all sorts of fun stuff.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's such a wild like blueprint for a bait shop. I feel like people, especially from outside of Wisconsin, are looking at it going like, what, there's beer at like a bait shop? I mean, it doesn't make sense for a lot of people, but for us it sounds awesome. I mean, do you guys have
people love it, man.
Yeah.
Like everybody's like, we get a lot of people because we're right next to the highway. They're heading up north or whatever. They pop off of 39, and everybody thinks it's such a cool concept. So
yeah,
that's another big part of our expansion too. We've gone, in our name, we've had tap beer. We have 8 beers on tap in our store. But now we've had the permit to do it the whole time. We have a canning system. We can sell our tap beer canned. We can give you like a crowler or a growler to go. But now we're going to be able to do cased beer, canned beer, specialty 6-packs, all the fun stuff that you need. You're kind of going out on the water, and you're like, I need some ice, some beer, a couple lures maybe, and maybe some
fresh line,
expert advice and a waypoint or two, and
not for me.
Yeah, you guys are selling waypoints now. That's good.
Not only that, you're just taking out a full stop in somebody's trip up to Wisconsin. Like if they got to go to a bait shop, they got to go to a liquor store. Now whatever, you're just cutting out that one stop, and you guys are
we're no more liquor anymore, actually.
Well, I mean, just if they're going and grab cases of beer or whatever to go get some lures, like you said, it just kind of cuts out another stop, which is nice. I mean, that's a sweet concept, sweet idea. And you guys showed us the renovations a little bit on the Zoom call that unfortunately people listening won't be able to see, but it looks really good.
Yeah,
looks like it's coming together.
To our store, and if you can picture kind of what our store looks like, or you've seen pictures, we basically quadrupled our space, over the last couple weeks.
The last 7 days.
Yeah. So It's been good. It's been exciting. So everyone who has seen it has been really excited. So it looks really good. Just excited to have more shoppability of our store.
Yeah.
We had, if you had been to the store, it was, there was something hanging everywhere because we just didn't have the
stuff
room.
Piled all over the place. It was driving me nuts.
We just didn't have the room for it. We had to put stuff everywhere.
I think when you gave us a walkthrough, when we had you on last, it was, the old store. It didn't have the renovations, obviously, and I think you had walleye stuff, but I think it was tucked in a corner way, way, way back or something like that, or you had some stuff tucked away. So, you said, come here, buy beer, buy some lures, but what else do you have, other than that for people to shop? I know you talked about line, like, what's the tackle in your shop?
You can bring in, I mean, we got a full complement of, all kinds of line, but we do a lot with the fins braid lately. And so, I mean, from musky reels to walleye gear, whatever you bring your reel in, we get you spooled up, get you on the road. We have a lot of clothing in here right now, AFCO stuff. All the musky stuff as well. Full thing of ice fishing gear, anything live scope you want to talk about. We got shuttles, we got all that stuff. We got Dakota lithium batteries, tons of that. We've always had Kramer custom rods. We're just talking tonight about setting something up where we're going to actually have like a dedicated line of our rods through Kramer that we'll have available here. So it won't be like, this musky rod, that musky rod. It'll be like, this is the one that we use. This is the walleye rod that I use, so on and so forth. So
sweet. That'll be awesome. Yeah, you guys have done a lot of cool like collabs, or I don't know what the proper term is, but you guys you've had your custom bait colors with Musky Innovations.
Yeah,
is there any other
lots of people? Yeah, we've had good relationships with a lot of people that make baits.
Pandemonium Tackle.
Yep.
Pandemonium
Chaos has been really good to us. John, we don't have custom stuff from Lake X, but John has always been good with getting us stuff. So always happy to have anything from Lake X.
All the Bakers.
Baker trolling stuff. SS Shads, getting some of those coming up here soon. So and Red October 2s, we try to keep a good relationship with the core people. You got musky friends and stuff. So you can't overload it. There's only so much you can put in here.
We don't want all of it. We just want the best stuff.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like such an attraction though. Like rather than going to, a normal bait shop or like a sporting goods store and seeing the same few colors, like it is a huge attraction to be able to go there and have, limited custom colors or see you at the show, and get your custom colors that way. So that's awesome.
And not to mention that, but we've got some guys that work in the shop here that have a paint company. So CC Baits, they're awesome guys. And I lean on them a little too hard sometimes. I'll be out on a trip and we're getting something on a flicker shad, and I need 10 of them by tomorrow morning, and I got them at 4 a.m. I pick them up on my way to my next trip. But those guys are painting stuff in here all the time. So even if we don't have something and you want something painted or whatever,
walleye stuff.
Yeah, mostly walleye stuff, but they'll do some musky stuff.
Yeah, hard suics,
hard baits.
Yep.
We have the capability to do that. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's a custom. You get to design your own, maybe. That's what I've been searching for.
Yep.
Yeah, and that reminds me right there too. Like, if you can't make it to our store, we have a online website. We had a sale come through right there. Guy bought, I think it was a fat bastard from Lake X, as I talk about Lake X right there. So if you can't come into our store, I keep the website updated. You can look through our online, selection of what we have. I try to keep pretty much everything that is custom and, everything that we use up to date and good pictures, and try to keep it in front of you on the website too. So you're not, digging through, everything. We usually put our best selling stuff right on the front page.
Nice. So how's the fishing season been for you guys? Looks like you've been putting some really nice fish in the net just from seeing it on the socials and whatnot. Obviously, we need an update on how the pontoon boat trolling going and everything like that. But it looks like the muskies have been treating you well, and some of the other stuff as well.
Yeah, buddy of mine got a real nice one. First night of our Wisconsin League of Muskie Anglers night, Tuesday night league, 49 on the head. So
that's a beast.
Really nice fish. We actually had raised a couple fish that night. Fish are pretty active and just absolutely crushed it. And it was a pretty special moment. So it was pretty cool to have it happen on league night. And it was big fish, really big fish. So cool to see, those fish. I think that first night or first, 2 nights on league, you can fish either Tuesday or Wednesday night. There was 12 fish boated. And that, seems to be, pretty close. We're having quite a few fish, and that was all out of one stretch. There's been a lot of fish caught, and it seems like there's a lot of good fish caught.
Yeah, there's the whole gamut right now. Like for every size structured fish is in the system right now. So
I was down on a new
That's
stretch of water last night. Never fished it. Just actually was using kind of satellite imagery more than my graph because the water was low in the satellite imagery. So there was rock bars that were exposed on the satellite that you wouldn't have seen, you know, just driving past it. And there was fish on every one. I was like, you know, calling my buddy. Hold on one sec. Calling my buddy and just being like, man, there's fish all over the place here. So just the river's doing really well. Really well.
That's good. I have two questions. One is, well, I'll just do one right away. How's the river flow been this season? Did it start high? Did it ever get super high? Is it kind of a little extra low right now, or what's kind of going on with Wisconsin?
I've been more dialed into that, I guess, than any other year because I check that stuff almost constantly now because I'm out there 4 or 5 days a week. So we never got like super duper crazy high. I want to say 34,000 was the highest we got for a couple days. And we held on pretty good for most of the spring in that like 7-8 range. And that doesn't mean much to anybody. That's cubic feet per second, I guess. So you can see where your flow is at on the river every day by calling Consolidated Water and Power, checking their website. So it's been what I would say would be a pretty typical spring. I mean, we had a little rush at the beginning and then pretty steady, reasonably high water for a little bit. And then it didn't peter off terrible because we have a couple stretches that are the one above us, Dubé, is currently being held at a lower level than they normally would. So that's reducing a lot of water out of there. And then there's a stretch one down from us that's really, really low. They got that thing drained almost all the way down. So there's a little, what I'd say, less flow, or a little higher flow, but the water level is actually a little bit lower, which is a little strange because of that. So
even down where I was last night, some of those stretches down by Nakusa are low, and I think they're working on dams down there, and that's just part of the game. Like that, the stretch directly below us is
empty,
12 feet low.
Jeez,
it's what I overheard that. That's why I was kind of wondering.
The size of like school buses, like it's
my God.
Cool, crazy. Yeah,
are you taking notes?
Well, if anybody has a chance to drive down there and check it out, like it's really cool to look at just what that system looks like when it's really, really low. So, but then you can have a chunk that's low like that, and then the rest of it can be fairly normal, you know. So we kind of settled into pretty much summer stuff here, maybe 3 weeks ago. Kind of summer pool, and looking at the forecast here, we got some rain coming up the next 5, 6, 7 days. It looks like we're going to get rain pretty regularly, so we'll see what becomes of that, I guess. But that's the river. You just keep playing the game every day.
Remember when I saw you boys on the river on opening day?
Oh yeah, that was a fun weekend.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Around the corner, you guys were like, what do we do?
Where am I?
Lost puppy dogs. I'm surprised.
But it was good fishing.
This year?
No, that was like 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago.
2 years, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's a normal CFS? Is it? I thought you said like 7 to 8, but what was it on opener? Was it 30?
No.
That opener?
No.
This year.
That 30 was like right around end of April.
Okay.
April. Actually, it was earlier than that. It would have been the beginning of April is when all the snow melt comes down.
Yeah.
So
it was like 15, I think, on opener this year.
Was it that high?
Yeah, because there was places I could get that I can only get when it's usually around that level. So they're like, if you watch the cool thing about the river is you watch the river. There's places I go when I know it's a certain flow, and there's rocks. Like my buddy has caught 3 muskies behind the same rock, and I've continued to go back to that rock, and every time the river gets to that flow, there's almost always a fish there. So
it's crazy.
All of my waypoints for the river are I don't leave it at a number. It's whatever the flow was that day. So that area was good like that. So. But it like right now, an average flow for the month of June is like 2,800 CFS. So.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's kind of a ninja trick. I know you just slip that in there about the waypoint and drop it down the CFS when you see it happen. Because I hear all these people that fish rivers and when they talk about like where they caught not where like the exact spot, but like describing the spot where they caught it, it seems like you can almost call your shot on the river when it's lower, like on where a fish should be. And that's crazy that you're talking about
They
a rock.
definitely, but they're
holding
going
a
to hit
fish.
certain areas are going to eddy up at a certain flow level, and like things happen. Like it's all about flow. Weather doesn't really matter that much for us here. I mean, cold fronts, warm fronts, whatever, that's fine. It's all about the flow. So,
Gotcha. So the bait presentation stays relatively similar.
It can. It just depends on the flow. Like there's sometimes if you're really, really low, well, now we're not throwing something that's going to, I'm not throwing a bulldog in there. It's 1.5 feet deep. When a lot of the spring stuff I was fishing, I mean, you could come up on an area that's normally 8 inches deep and it was 8 feet deep. So, but that happens every year.
Yeah. So what's your update on the pontoon? You got any new mods on it this year?
Diesel heaters.
Mods.
We got dual diesel heaters now. Yeah.
Damn.
So we're out there
in December.
Yeah, we did. Well, we went as far as we could last year. I always go until I can't get out of the launch twice. So I don't learn the first time. But nothing super crazy. I got a new motor, if that's any good. So I put a few too many hours on the old 115 Pro XS. So it was time. We got a new 150 on there for this year. And then
it's hard to add to perfection,
It really is. It really is.
So were you sucker fishing on it like in December then? Stay nice and warm?
We made it up until the Friday before rifle season was how far I made it last year because everything froze up.
I was out. My last day was actually kind of a cool trip. This guy saw us on Gillespie, booked a trip for his son who had like never really fished, like ever, like never like held a rod even. And it came up from North Carolina. It was the day before Thanksgiving. And first sucker bobber to go down was a 45.5. And it was just, then the dad caught one and we were leaving. And then the kid caught another 44. And it was like, kid had a day of his life.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he thinks it's easy.
What was it like filming with Gillespie?
Oh,
awesome.
It's always a great time.
Yeah.
I look forward. I'm very fortunate that we have done as many shows as we have done, and hope to do more and continue to have a good relationship with them. And it's a lot of fun.
It's like fishing with one of your buddies that you fished with your whole life that you didn't know you had. Honestly, like it's just buddies in a boat. It's awesome.
I've said this all the time. Like when I first met him, it was like in the first 10 minutes, it was like I'd known this guy my whole life.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, I had to pull him away. I'm catching crappies, and he's been talking to this guy, had come up to us on the ice. He talked to this guy, random gentleman, 45 minutes he's talking to this guy, shooting the shit, having a good time. And I'm just like, hey, John,
we're catching fish.
we got a few crappies that are kind of biting over here.
Nope, nobody fishes harder than that guy.
Yeah, and truly, that day was incredible.
It would blow your mind. I mean, every ice fishing show that we've done with him, it seems like we have the worst weather, 36 degrees in rain for 2 days straight. It's just terrible.
Well, he has to just shoot, right? I mean, he's doing the weekly shows, so it's like,
but he doesn't stop. I mean,
doesn't matter.
He doesn't go in a shack. He fishes the whole time. I mean, he's fished 2 days straight in the rain. Outside.
I was just gonna ask it because he's so animated on the show. It's like, okay, so he is like that obsessed with fishing. Like it is, he lives and breathes it.
Lives and breathes it for sure.
That's awesome.
That's pretty epic. Yeah, because I mean, it's just like to do that week in, week out would be crazy. To have to go to a different bite, different that like.
Yeah,
I mean, nuts. Right. Not like it's on his fourth season. Like we're talking.
It's an incredible legacy.
Yeah, it really is. It's
yeah.
I would fish with that guy. I say this, I would fish with that guy 7 days a week. I really would.
That's cool.
That's probably why he's, been as successful as he has been, though, right? Like
100%. It's a testament to him. Yeah, he's the one. I mean,
dude, you think about people who have like really monetized themselves as a brand. He's a Midwest guy, but you ask anyone over who's been watching fishing shows on cable television in the Midwest, they know who he is.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
He is, an absolute legend when it comes to, Midwest fishing.
So you guys have done the ice thing with him a few times. Have you done the muskie excursion with him?
Not
we don't
muskies.
do muskies now.
No. He does quite a few muskies.
He
already.
does those shows, but usually they're different. Like we kind of have our set shows.
He looks forward to the tune, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I feel like that's. I mean, it's a differentiator. Something cool. Like people probably are not used to seeing that on TV.
Well, he knows he can come. I mean, it doesn't really matter the weather too much,
When we that spring show this year was 14 degrees when we put on in the morning, and everything that could freeze froze. I mean, everything. And I always put on early to start my trips, anyways, just because it's a big boat. There's a lot to take care of. You always got something going on, and I mean the shift linkage froze.
We were gas fired up the jet boil, and we're boiling river water to pour on the steering or the
shift
throttle
linkage.
linkage.
The shift linkage was frozen.
Oh my God!
And I mean,
we hammered them though.
Well, the ice, and then I went to fill it up, and I had water. Must have got in there at some point and froze in the gas cap. I couldn't get. It was a show to be. We had 3 hours of wildness before the show even started. So, but
that's crazy.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
I'm glad it's 80 now and not 14 degrees. And
you call the boat guys up, and I'm like, I know these things aren't meant to do this, but we got to make her work. So, and they did.
Do you guys have anything scheduled with him coming up?
Usually we do a spring pontoon show, a fall pontoon show, and then a couple ice fishing trips. So
nice,
awesome.
I don't know if that's to be the case this year, but that's been the status quo, I guess, for the past few years. So
yeah.
So Jozef, you mentioned that you guys had the Musky League down there. What's all that entail? I mean, is it a pretty big crew of people that participate in it?
Yeah, I think I don't even know how many people, 60 plus signed up this year.
It's usually around that 60 to 80 range. Yeah.
Matt actually was one of the
former ousted president.
Oh, but
former president. Respectfully stepped down or what?
Yeah. I respect. No, me and a couple of buddies started that 15 years ago.
It's actually the reason how I got to know Matt.
Yeah, it is.
Many years ago. I was working at a bar in town here with a restaurant, and they came in for their board meeting.
Because you got to have a board meeting for league, right?
And
at a bar.
At a bar.
I know that gig.
They were looking for a bartender, and they're like, "Hey, we'll pay you to bartend our opening league night event." And I'm just like, "Well, how much is the league fee?" And they're like, $50. I'm like, "Well, how about you just give me free entry into the league, and I'll bartend your event," because they needed a licensed bartender for the city. So that's kind of how I got to know Matt, and then how I started fishing Musky League. That was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah. When we started that league up, I never wanted to have a meeting about fishing while I could be actually fishing. So we only had one meeting a year. The kickoff meeting, fish the rest of the time.
Good call.
So how does that work then? Like on the river, do you guys designate certain?
Actually, a massive amount of water, so you can fish. We've gone to a little bit more adjusted schedule. It used to only be Tuesday nights. Now you can either choose to sign in Tuesday or Wednesday nights. You fish from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. and you can fish from the north end of Lake Wausau all the way down to Petenwell. So the bottom.
Jeez. It's pretty big.
There's a lot of room. Everybody can spread out.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of room. I mean,
Holy crap.
yeah.
What's the ruling on? Do people meet up at a bar afterwards? Is there a ruling for like fish pictures, or how does that get sent in?
It's all sent to a private Facebook group online that kind of everyone's in.
Oh, nice.
It's a really an on your honor thing.
Yeah, there's really no money involved in it. Like when we started off, you got too much money involved. Even good people do dumb things for money. So we didn't want a lot of money involved in it. And all the money that we raised always went to either stocking or now it's kind of transitioned to more research. So, and that club's earned, the whatever you'd call it, I guess, has earned a significant money over the course of the year. They've done a lot of work,
So then it's it's between Memorial Day and Labor Day. It's a point system, 50 points for a minimum fish at 34 inches, a quarter inch a point afterwards. So you just send your picture in, you on the bump board, holding it, and then successful release, and you just carry your point total through the 14 weeks.
I'm surprised you guys don't hold court with a league there right in the shop.
Maybe it's just it's so spread out.
Yeah, a lot of guys fish Wausau. There's guys fishing.
That's true.
Coosa.
Yeah.
Some guys, it's only $50 to get in for the year, so it's not super serious,
Yeah.
But
not super serious.
Well,
you guys
between
trick me,
between JB and I, it's my boat partner and I. It's an individual league, and my boat partner and I, the last 2 years on the last night, we're battling for first and second. So he won 2 years ago. I won last year.
Yeah, and it's not a team event either. So like if you want to fit, you can fish with whoever you want every week. You're your own team, I guess.
How does that work for you and your boat partner if it came down to it? By company, is that a net your own fish type deal, or
knock it off? No,
jab,
I'm happy for him. I mean, I just last year. So there's also a little event in the league. It's called a Grand Slam. So what you do is you take your biggest 4 fish in 4 different sections of river, and the person at the end of the year whose point total is the most between those 4 sections and 4 best fish wins a singular Grand Slam prize of monetary value.
Mm-hmm.
And so I almost had it done. I lost my Grand Slam fish in week 5 last year, and I chased it all through the year. And JB ended up, my boat partner, caught a 48 and then a 43, and he beat me to it. So that was a little that was a little salty when I was chasing it all year long, going to different stretches of river, trying to get one more fish. But I'm just happy to see fish in the net, really, more than anything. It's really not about winning it.
The whole league was designed around camaraderie and just having a good time. So
it's nice to have a plaque with your name on it, but I just like seeing fish in the net. So that's more so where I get most of my joy. When I got to net a 48 for him last year, a 49 for him this year. So we'll see if there's any.
And I don't fish it. I mean, I still get signed up for it every year, but I haven't really fished it just because I'm a little too busy for it. But
sure,
I'm almost more excited now from all the stuff that we started doing, 10, 12 years ago with pit tags and that, where if I'm on a trip and we get a 22 incher in the boat, I'm probably more excited about that than a 45 now, just to see where all this pit tagging data is going. And I really get jacked about that stuff. So
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we were just talking about pit tagging this past week in the pod. Gus just got a reader. I think was it Green Bay you scanned one and it had grown like an inch in 2 years.
And it was a male. It was a 15.25 inch male, and it was tagged 2 years prior at 49.3 inches, and it was tagged. It was put a pit tag in it, like within 100 yards of where Clayton caught that fish too. We found out in early May in the Fox River. Yeah, so that was like really cool information, and a bunch of us in our Musky Zinc chapter, we finally got readers out to a bunch of us, and I don't have any more updated information on that, but I think we're looking to possibly do more. But we're
Yeah,
a
I
little
think
slow
Bowman.
moving up here.
Yeah, and
Musky League has like 20. Like they spend a lot of money on the readers. I mean, they're what, $1,000 a piece now.
well, those are the ones we have. But
Yeah.
if you
I was gonna
want,
say-
if you're an angler and you're just curious and you want to scan fish, you can purchase these readers on Amazon.
Like 100. Yeah.
They're on, like, I think, yeah, $80 to $100 or even less. I
They're
think you
like,
get
they're
cheap,
very
cheap.
reasonable.
Yeah,
There's-
so
I think the
But-
cheaper you go, the less waterproof they get. I think that's
Right.
all.
100%.
Or the distance to read them, I think.
Well, and the distance thing is kind of cool too. We started buying those green ones, whether they're the HPR readers for league, just because they would last a lot longer. And I mean, I'm using mine every day for not only muskies but sturgeon as well on the river when we incidentally catch those.
I don't know if I've ever charged mine, honestly. I use it all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
they're really good.
And they're awesome. But to your point here, I got one the other day that was 41 inches, or a client got it. And 10 years ago, we used to tag them in the cheek. That's where the DNR told us to put the tags in. So we've since transitioned to tagging them right above the dorsal fin. Jozef and I both have scientific collector's permits too, so we actually have needles and pit tags in the boat, and we'll actually put the tags in ourselves. So I get a 41, and I'm scanning it, and the reader goes off by the cheek, and I'm like, what? This got to be old fish. Well, that fish was first caught in 2015 at 36.1 inches.
What?
Yeah.
How old was it
Thing's
then?
Maxing out.
That they put that fish at like 19 years old, 18, 19.
What? At
41 incher?
Yep, it was a male.
Oh boy.
To back that story too, there was another fish in league caught this last week on Tuesday. There was a fish caught. It was 30.5 inches.
No.
It was stocked in the Mosinee flowage in 2015.
Oh,
what? Come on.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys,
I asked my buddy who's a fish biologist. I'm like, "What's up with that?" He goes, "Some fish just don't grow.
Sometimes they just don't grow."
That's nuts.
So 30 inches.
Like the average here is like 5 years is 35 inches. It's been pretty, but we would have only known that from pit tags.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other way to figure that out.
So,
This
yeah,
is
because you guys
blowing
grow
my
giant,
mind, man.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
so
because you
cool
grow
to hear about.
giant fish, but then you hear about fish like that, like the 41 incher that's like 19 years old, and the
Yeah.
10-year-old 30 and a quarter, or 30 and a half.
A male in the Wisconsin River is only going to top out probably about 42.
Maybe. You never know. There's always a Shaquille O'Neal.
Well, yeah. You got maybe one. Maybe one that's probably a giant at 45.
Yeah.
But they're, your males are going to be, 38 to 40.
Low 40s, yeah.
What's the oldest fish that you've seen?
That one's the oldest one I've seen, at 41.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because they didn't have pit tags.
Yeah.
That fish actually was tagged. Nobody had readers back then,
Yeah.
I mean, you think about what a muskie's got to do to survive 19 years this day and age.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Especially the Wisconsin
Well,
River.
the crazy part about it is that fish went that long. It went 10 years without anyone else recapturing it. But it had a reader.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, people might have caught it and it lived, whatever. But there's so many people that fish our stretch that have readers that it's pretty crazy that fish was not caught in 10 years and recaptured at least once. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Jeez. I
But
mean,
yeah, shows how how much we think we might know about these fish, but also at the same time how little we know
nothing.
exactly
The more you know,
what's
the less
going
you-
on.
I won't get fully into it because I do not have the details, but Clayton and I recently have been talking about this crazy thing that we've now heard from multiple people in multiple cases, and even some dude that said like, "Hey, look at this information," and I haven't been able to look at it. I'd have to get it from Clayton, but it's something about either like a second spawn of the muskies or muskies in very deep, clear lakes spawning over like 20 to 30 feet of water.
Wouldn't surprise me at all.
That people have witnessed two muskies rubbing up against each other in like 20 to 30 feet of water. And they would be like a sandgrass lake. So I don't know if they know that their eggs are going to drop way down in the sandgrass and they're actually naturally reproducing, because they're not getting, rustled around in the silt muck bottom in like 2 to 5 feet of water.
Yeah.
And maybe that's helping the reproduction.
I don't think anything surprises me anymore. Honestly, there's every day there's something new, and you're like, how did with every fish that we put in the Stevens Point flowage and or above it, us and every other club has had a pit tag in it for at least 5 years now. So any fish that we should be recapturing that's under 30 inches should have a pit tag in it theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
I look at my numbers right now, but I'm around 10 that are under 30 this year already that did not have pit tags in them.
Most of my fish don't.
And most of them hadn't.
Jeez.
So good natural reproduction?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Or just way fish than we think.
Way more fish, yeah. And that's something that I don't want this to come off bad, but it's like I do think a lot of the literature that was written 10, 15 years ago on musky fishing, right? A lot of times people still take that stuff as gospel. When in reality, we probably have the most information we've ever had actually about these fish, like within the last couple of years.
Last 3 years, 2-3 years.
With the amount of work, like you guys are talking about with electronics and learning them that way, stuff like that. Like
dietary studies.
Yeah.
There's proof in the pudding when you have a fish that was put in a body of water at a known age with a known length, and you recapture that fish five. Now you have definitive data. You don't have a chart that was designed in the 60s to tell you how fast a muskie grows.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy. It's funny because we always joke, like we find a corner of a lake where we catch like 3, 34-inch fish, and we call it like the nursery bay. Like, oh, let's go hit up the nursery. Little do we know, those fish might be 15 years old swimming around in there, stuck at 34 inches.
They got a damn mortgage on that area.
They've seen more than me.
Yeah.
Well, you think that the river is a factory, right? We all know that. But you always assume growth rates are pretty high. When we do the spring surveys, how old would you think a 12-inch crappie is on average out of the Stevens Point flowage? This isn't musky talk, but just how
3 years, 2 years.
Wrong.
Let's say 7
years.
to 10.
16.
What?
What? 12-incher?
Yep.
12 to 13 incher can drive a car.
How the hell does a crappie last that long in Wisconsin?
And then
ain't no way.
And then
That's
how
getting
bad
bonked.
you feel buckets of them things. I felt terrible when I found that out.
Yeah. I mean,
So
that
like
would be
16 incher is like, 25 quarter century.
They're up there.
that thing is driving license age.
Yeah.
That's a lot of life for a crappie.
They can almost vote.
And we pull those up and we're like, oh man, that's a great
nice eater.
Perfect.
Almost go buy a pack of smokes. 16-year-old crappie.
Sweet.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But they grow, and that's
it's a bell curve thing. They start off fast and then they taper off, like every fish does. But
yeah,
my mind blown with that. So
yeah.
I mean, what would you guess? Like, I mean, I guess Wisconsin River, Inland Lake, whatever, like a, Wisco strain 50-incher on average. What age do you think it is?
10,000 years old, I think.
Growing at a centimeter.
Honestly, it's probably not that old. Would be my guess.
25. Probably.
I didn't think they're that old because I think
over
they grow,
20.
I think they grow really fast. Like that fish has the genetics to grow fast.
But eventually, I feel like they'd hit like 46, and they would just, maybe a half-inch,
quarter
inch a year.
Talking about
quarter inch a year at most.
25 years probably.
I would say depending on the genetics, you got to be north of 18 at a minimum years old.
Yeah.
So at a minimum, I would say a safe bet would be 20 to 25. Depending on what that fish is doing. Is it in peat well where there's white bass galore and they can feed off of really fatty stuff and really grow, or is it in some of these stretches where somehow it lived through this stretch that's 12 feet low and went like a year in this stretch with no water and just basically survived.
And then you throw in the fact that, well, was it a naturally reproduced fish that has different genetics than the fish that had been stocked in there? That's also something that needs to be talked about with that age thing. So
there's a lot of variables.
There's so many variables.
You're thinking probably 2 decades, conservatively.
So
do you guys? Oh, I was just gonna ask. Do you guys get stocked fish with eggs right from your flowages and rivers, or do you get them from hatcheries that they just take from, like what we would get up north here? Because we get Wisconsin River strain in northern Wisconsin.
Those are the same fish that we're getting now. As a general rule of thumb, we used to get them from a bait dealer down south, and then there's a whole long story with that. But I believe that the DNR is now doing all of the stocking up here for the most part, which are the fish coming out of the hatchery up in by you guys. What's the name?
Lake Tomahawk or no Woodruff?
Woodruff there. Yeah, that's where I
can't remember.
Yeah, it's in Woodruff. That's where I went to get my pit tagging stuff done. They had me tag like 2,000 muskies in an afternoon.
Nice.
So
hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking every single one that I catch now. It's just part of the routine, You catch one, you grab the bump board, you grab the tags, and you grab the reader. And it's part of the routine now.
It happens pretty quick when you get it down, doesn't it, Joe?
Yeah, I actually was looking at my GoPro footage, and it always feels like it's a long time from the time you pull the fish out of the net. You put it on the bump board. For league, we have to take pictures of it on the bump board. We tag it for league, and then took pictures of it. We wanted to get some good pictures of it. And we all, in your mind, you're always thinking like, God dang, like, especially with tagging it, like you want to get it back in the water. It was like all of that was just over a minute, from pulling it out of the net to putting it back into the water to release. So when you have your routine down and ready, in your mind, it might seem long, but when it comes to be muscle memory and, when you are prepared, it goes very quick.
So for myself and anyone else listening that doesn't know or hasn't used the readers, what exactly does it just spit back the info right away? Is it something
it's basically a serial number is what it is.
Yeah.
So it's the same information like that if you have a dog or a cat or a pet that the Humane Society has put a chip in.
Same thing.
You scan your pet, and we've had friends of ours who have seen lost dogs and have used their fish reader to scan the lost animal to get the corresponding number. It's a serial number that is registered with the DNR for fish. Same thing with Humane Society or any kind of.
Each chip has has its own unique.
So you scan it, it gives you a number, and then you go online, or what?
No, you'd have to go through the DNR for that. So that's the thing. Like you have to have a reader. You can't see the tag in the fish, right? So for anybody that's out there, like the old style fliss tags that would stick out of a fish, like the orange ones that had a number.
Yeah.
Like they stopped using those because they would fall out after X number of years, 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
And they get all muddy,
and you can't read them. And so when you put a pit tag in a fish, it's with the fish for its life.
It's about the size of a grain of rice, maybe a little bit bigger than that. Yeah, 2 grains of rice.
So when you scan it, it beeps, and then the number that is associated with that tag pops up on the reader. And then for Jozef and I, the DNR we download our data, give it to the DNR, and then they give the data back. Sometimes we get a little anxious, and I message them early and say, "What is this fish? Oh my gosh!" But
I have a good relationship with. We both do. Our buddy who runs one of the fisheries biologists here, who heads up all this information. So it's part of my routine. I write the information of the fish, length, the stretch location where I caught it, and then I usually put other information like specifically where I caught it, and then for myself, usually the bait I caught it on. And then I take a picture of that and I send it to my buddy who works the DNR. He just puts it right in his system. He has an Excel file with the list of tags that I have. So he'll just enter that information as to what length and location that fish was.
Yeah. So if you were just an everyday weekend guy or gal and you had a pit tag reader, you just kind of have to figure it out yourself through the DNR on how
Yeah.
to.
You just look up your local or county
fisheries
biologist for DNR.
Okay.
You just get them that number. If you send them an email, just say, "Hey, I caught this fish with this number on this date, location on this lake or whatever,"
And
they'd want to know. They'd want to know.
Oh, well, like what section of the river? Yeah, but they're not looking for your spots. I guess is what I'm saying.
No, but if they're like if say you're on Lake Tom or something or Lake Minocqua, if they got tagged fish out there, they'd want to know if that fish was in Minocqua, Tom, any other, in between the lakes. So it's good data to give those. It's not like they're out there looking for your spots.
The more data you can give them, the better. And a lot of the fish that we have here, they'll go through dams, so they can't go up; they can only go down. So we have fish that we've tagged here that have been recaptured in Petenwell. That's 60 miles of river south.
Short amounts of time.
Yeah, that's wild.
A year,
less than a year. Yeah,
a year. Well, a fish was caught up here in Stevens Point, and the next year their survey was down on Petenwell, and the same fish was recaptured. So you're talking like 5 dams,
more than that,
6 dams.
That's insane.
50 plus
constantly swimming.
Yeah, and then some fish will stay in the same 100 yards like the one that you guys got. They'll never. It's weird.
That's wild. Do you ever think it'll get to a point like where that info won't be so private and like you can plug the pit tag reader into your phone, you scan it, and it shows up with like, that fish's details, and then you can.
I hope
not.
I hope not.
Well, no, not the locations and all, but he's just saying like the database.
No,
as far as the fish, I like to think that it would, but I watch my mouth here as far as the DNR is concerned. Yeah, so, but it would be neat. It is still public knowledge, though, right? You always have to remember that. Like, they want as much knowledge as they can get, and they're willing to work with you. So if you're gung ho enough to go out and get your own reader, they're gonna work with you. So you're gonna create a relationship there, and they're gonna want to help them.
Our buddy too. I was talking to him. He fishes in our league, and I was talking to him at our league meeting, and he was at a conference for all the fisheries biologists, and he was telling me that he was talking to some of his colleagues, and he was saying, he's like, yeah, we have like 20 to 30 plus guys out there with readers scanning fish, and they're all like, what? They were all super jealous of the cooperation with anglers to give our fisheries, Jake, our buddy,
take the time
to have the access to the information, because these other counties, they're only getting information on one period or one section of lake once every 10 years.
Well, when they do the work, they don't have as many eyes on the water. So having anglers involved is very important.
I feel like people would be open to it if it became a little bit maybe more, I don't know, just commonplace or readily accessible for the everyday angler. Because like I know for myself,
and I don't see why
that would be something I would be certainly interested in, even over here in like Minnesota or Wisconsin. I just like, obviously I'd do it to want to help the fishery and get more information, but truthfully, I'd also just be curious as just a person that fishes a lot. I'm just like, if I caught this fish, how old is it? How, it'd be cool to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think a lot of the hang up initially was with the cost of the initial readers, like they're not expecting people to go out and purchase these readers on their own. So that's why our clubs were buying them and stuff like that. But
makes sense.
And I'm not speak for the DNR, but I'm going to say like, I think they would take all the data that they can get. People had readers. If you want to buy your own, they'd welcome the data with open arms.
Yeah, I mean, I know in Minnesota here that the DNR has been extremely active in like meeting people at launches and taking information on how you did that day. How you caught the fish, where you caught the fish, how you
like survey you at the launch.
Essentially, yeah.
Creel survey.
I mean, pretty much, yeah, where they're asking you like, I mean, I've never really had that happen. Gus could speak more to it, but I don't know if I've ever really had that happen in Wisconsin.
Just once
Creel
this
surveys
spring.
I run.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, well, I'm just fishing up north, which I don't do nearly as much as I used to. But I would run into creel surveys all the time.
Would you? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, this one was like musky specific though, so that's what it was.
Oh, sure. That was probably funded a little bit.
Yeah.
And a lot of that too with the DNR depends on funding, Yeah. So
yeah. All right. Well, we've talking some muskies here. Before we let you guys go, give us what's been hot this year, what's been working. Give us some of the baits that are in the shop that have been in fuego.
You're gonna want a number 7 flicker shad 60 feet back with a 22-inch walleye on it. They eat it about. So this, like, what was that? 4 weeks ago, right before the Northern opener. I don't think I could go one trolling pass without pulling in a walleye in a big, like a 22, 23 incher, right? They were eating them every time coming in, every pass. But that's more of a joke than anything because you really can't fish them that way. So, but I guess that made me think that you can't throw too big of a bait early, I guess. If I would have been me musky fishing, if I wasn't guiding for walleyes, like I would have been out there throwing. Well, I wouldn't have been. I would have had my clients throwing a pounder. I'm not throwing a pounder.
Glide baits have been always good for me early. We have a good relationship with Conklin. The pedigree, it's kind of has been very near and dear to my heart. Always, I always have one of those pretty much tied on. Swimming dogs has been really good the last couple days. The last even couple weeks here. Top water time coming here.
Last couple days have been starting on top water.
Yeah, the top water bite was good last night. We raised some nice fish on top water. Just one really nice one JB caught.
Connor got one on top water last night.
Oh yeah, Connor got one on top water last night. That's kind of what I've been doing, just focusing on current too. That's kind of how I like to fish. Getting into those current eddies and working those baits along that current, and putting a swimming dog in there, putting a top water through there, putting a glide bait through there. Those fish are in there. You got to work them sometimes, and they're not always apt to come out right away. It's always kind of interesting. You'll hook up on maybe a 6th, 7th, or 8th cast in the same. It'll land in the same spot in the same tree, and that last cast or whatever, you'll have one come up and smack it. So that's always fun to see.
And I haven't had too many musky trips yet this year, but we did do one casting where we heck was that hang no, it wasn't a hang 10. It was a glide bait. That was really early in the year though, pre-Northern opener. And then my trolling bite's been pretty solid. So it 3 hours of trolling the other day with the Baker squirrely tails, went 2 for 5, I think. And my buddies that troll a lot with me, the guys I used to fish league with, went 3 for 5 in league one night. So trolling has been, and that's all our main river fish. So those ones that were eating the walleyes, trolling, catching a lot of those. So
what's your trolling? Is it, do you have 3 rods out, or how many rods?
No, please.
It's 3 rods per person, right?
Times that by 3 at least. Well,
I start
9 of them.
I start
Ryan,
running.
You're
boards.
Allowed 3 lines a guy. So how many
people can we fit on a boat?
The pontoon, a lot.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
I think one time
for league.
I think we had
20 out.
15.
That's insane. Is that not just like an insane amount of work to worry about them?
It's disgusting at that.
It's a lot of running, but I love it.
You don't do that with people that
Just raking
that's
it.
with your buddies, yeah.
So look, normally I'll run, like my average setup will be like 9 rods. I'll run 9 rods is usually what I run. If I run more than 9 or 10, then I got to start running boards. So.
Well, it kind of my second half of that question was like, do you typically have like two really small baits you're trolling, and then like do you throw any giant like
No.
nightlocks or anything, or
I pretty much throw this. I pretty much have the same stuff dragging around. Just Baker 7.5-inch Bakers, 6.5-inch Bakers,
just 20 in a row?
There's
like it's the
if you buy
floating
these baits
armada.
at retail, there's more money in baits behind the boat than some people have invested in a boat.
Yeah, but they work.
We
Whatever.
have a really good relationship with Zach, so
those SS Shads I troll,
Yeah,
those are
good too.
solid. Yeah, and I still got to get some of those other ones from your buddy up north yet. I got to talk to him. So, but
I run a little different.
Oh, that's right.
You guys have seen my boat. I run the mud motor, so
Yep.
We run and gun in the shallows in the current.
Yeah, that's a sweet rig.
I really
Yeah, it
enjoy
is.
it. For people who have never experienced being able to kind of go where you want to go on the river, it's a really fun time to get out. I do half day trips, full day trips, even just to get out in the morning. 4 hours. We can really go get to spots that people look at me all the time like, this is where we're fishing. I'm like, yep. They're like, you can see bottom, but where we're casting to is deep. Along some of these undercuts. I relate it to trout fishing quite frequently. Sometimes, where you're on the meanders of the river and these undercuts form on these islands, and there's deep holes, and these muskies just sitting there. So you can pick apart these deep holes and rip up into the current and get up into these shallow spots that other glass boats and other aluminum boats with lower units are afraid to go to.
Yeah, that's awesome. That part of the river is beautiful. It was kind of like made me feel like there's the Everglades in certain parts. Like you have all the trees hanging over the water and like skinny water. It was cool.
And I've been pushing myself to like last year. Really, we kind of touched on the Grand Slam for league. I really pushed myself to learn new spots of water, and I really don't go up north too much because I've just really been trying to go to spots on the river, especially with my boat. I don't have any fear of hitting something or going somewhere where I'm gonna damage my boat, and I can just kind of have free reign of the river and really push myself to learn new water. And it's all right here, and it's all super accessible. And even if you have a bigger boat, glass boat, you can get to these spots. You can get and access these rivers. You just have to put in the time.
I don't know.
That's basically what it comes down to with everywhere. You just got to put in the time and really kind of study where you want to go and how to attack the river.
Yeah, right on. Well, we can't thank you guys enough for hopping on here with us tonight. There's a lot of little interesting tidbits there on everything. If people are looking to get a hold of you guys and coming to see you guys in person, I mean, I can vouch for you guys here staring at this bar. Sweet setup. Looks like a good time. Where can people find you? How do they get a hold of you? Lay out all the info.
All the social medias, obviously, Facebook, Instagram. Our storefront number is 715-341-7400. You can call our storefront. We're open 7 days a week. info@tapsandtackle.com. If you're looking to email us, take care of all the social media. So if you're looking for a quick response, social media, definitely easy, quick response. I obviously take care of all the emails too. So anyway, really, you Google us anyway, you can kind of, if it says contact us, we'll get a hold of you. So I take pride in that. Customer service has always been really one of the big things, pillars of our business, making sure that, people can rely on us and count on us to be here and get a quick answer and have the gear that they need right in town here or, virtually too online. So our in-store customers are just as important as our online customers.
That's awesome. And to get a hold of you guys to book a guide trip is the same deal. Go through.
You can get a hold of us through our emails. If you go to our website, our contact information for Matt or I are numbers are directly on our guided services page. If you want, I can give you that page link. Our numbers are on there. So get a hold of us if you're looking to get out.
For trips, it is probably easier to call our cell phones because you're going to get a hold of us a lot faster that way. So,
or if people want to reach out if they have questions, we will get you the answers that you need. So, if anyone's looking to reach out, just get a hold of us, and we will get you to the right people and get you the answers you're looking for.
Cool.
Appreciate
you guys. I think if anybody's listening that maybe is looking to book a bachelor party, get on the pontoon boat. Big fan wide trolling.
We've done some pretty sweet trips actually with larger groups.
Even with 2 boats, that's the fun part.
Nice.
He'll have guys on the tune, and then I'll rip guys on my boat. I'll do like a 2-hour switch. I'll cast them for 2 hours, and I'll come back. We'll switch them off the pontoon. 2 more guys will come cast with me, and we'll kind of rotate those guys through the 8 hours. So it's a lot of fun.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Good deal. Cool. Good deal, fellas. Well, it was great seeing you guys again. Good seeing you at Wausau briefly. Yeah. Appreciate some of the baits that we were able to pick up with you guys there at Wausau, and hopefully I feel pretty confident that we'll get those working, put to use here this summer. So
awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Joseph.
Good to see you.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, start in 3, 2. All right, well, we can't thank Matt and Joseph enough to come on the podcast here and chop it up about taps and tackle, and all the Wisconsin River and all that good stuff down there in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Their shop is awesome. Beer and bait. Can't get any better than that. So hopefully you guys go check out their shop or website, or book a trip on the jet boat or the pontoon cruiser going after walleyes, muskies. They got the whole deal there. So be sure to contact them about your Wisconsin River needs. So, all right, gents. I think we need to talk a little bit more on Minnesota opener. Max, you caught some Blondies. I know you kind of alluded to that in the intro. Walk us through what was going down. You got some more Minnesota leechers in the bag for yourself.
Yeah, it was a great day. It was like I said in the intro, we got to put in a full day out in Minnesota. I think it was a full 12-hour shift out there, Brian. So I don't know what you think about that, but yeah, it was a good long, hard day of fishing. No 2-3 hour lunch breaks. No sleeping in. The alarm went off at about 3:50, 4 a.m. and we were out the door. So yeah, it was a great day, but no, the pattern was it was interesting. We got out there. Like I said, I was fishing with our friend Ryan Becker, and we kind of tackled it pretty traditional way. One guy starts out with blades, one guy starts out throwing usually rubber or something else, and yeah, it was interesting to see the entire day unfold, how the bite completely shifted throughout the day. Pretty much up through the morning and through the first major moon window, everything was moving on blades. And then at about noon to 1 o'clock, as weather started to come in and wind started to pick up, it just went to a complete rubber bite. So it was fun. I mean, we moved a lot of fish and were able to get 2 to bite. And yeah, it was just overall just a great day. 2 really nice fish in the boat.
I know they're leechers, so I kind of know the answer, but were they blondes or brunettes?
They were very, very blonde.
Yeah,
they
were pretty
blonde.
wild looking, like almost
very gorgeous,
whiter than most leechers I've seen, and they had like
silver
defined dots on them too.
Yeah, they were really pretty. And they were a lot of fish coming into the boat. It's just always so different when you see them come in following in Wisconsin compared to when you see them following in Minnesota. It's like a whole different looking fish. But yeah, I was able to get the first one in the figure 8, which was always fun. And the second one was in about a 25-mile-an-hour wind gust, sitting out and trying to huck at weeds with a big old rubber bait. And yeah, so two totally different bites and totally 2 different conditions. And dumped a few fish too along the way that day, so could have been a special one. But yeah, still overall awesome to get 2 nice fish in the boat.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, yeah, getting two fish in the boat any day is pretty awesome. And great start to your Minnesota adventures. I know you obviously got up here for Wisconsin opener, but the next time you will be up here, Max, will be for the PMTT at Eagle River, which is surprisingly coming up here relatively soon. I know it's still
Very.
kind of early June, at least when we're recording this, but by the time it comes out, I mean, it's, working. It's going to come out right before we got the Spring Classic on the Eagle River chain, and then I think just it's the following weekend is the PMTT on the Eagle River and Three Lakes chain, which I
The
don't
next
know if
episode
it's
will be the opener or the preview for that.
right. Yeah, and I don't know if it's full or not. So if you're listening to this, don't quote me. Maybe you can still sign up to fish in that event, but I think it's probably going to fill up more than like traditional, than like the Madison or the Cave Run or what some of the Minnesota events have been, because there's a lot of locals up here. There's a lot of good sticks in this area that haven't done the full trail, it seems like, in a while, or they really don't, but they like to do local tournaments. So there's going to be a lot of good sticks in this tournament that have fished tournaments for 20 plus years, basically. So it'll be a good event. We'll see how the weather unfolds and what the bite does, but more on that next week or less. I don't know. We don't want to give out too much, but other
I
than
might, I
that,
might, I might enter my villain arc a little bit, hop on the old Ranger and just burn fish, make a bunch of enemies that weekend.
We have told you multiple times to enter into the tournament.
I know
And
my boat party, I don't know, didn't work out this year. Would have been perfect, but
someone was non-committal. Was it you? Was it him? Was it
no, I
Beast?
brought it up. It was, it is a big commitment. It's it's money, it's days off work, yada yada, everything you guys do.
is it though? Is it days off work? I mean, you working Saturdays, Sundays now, or what's the deal?
Well, if you're gonna pre-fish it all,
You
Do
don't
you
need
need
a
to pre-fish the
pre-fish.
chain?
I mean, I don't need to, but
What
you
what
might.
would you what would you
What would you
pre-fish
do?
on the chain that would change what you do for the tournament?
Uh, I would fish at every spot that I already know, probably burn them, and then have to think of something new.
Burn 'em.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's confidence right
that
there.
is true. Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna convince him. It's his boat after all, so I can't force his hand much, but
You might
would have
get
been fun.
some willing folks that might reach out. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, fellas, I think that puts a bow on it. Minnesota opener, Inland 50. First time dad hits the podcast and taps and tackle all in one ep. So nicely done, fellas.
Yeah,
Big
that
app,
was
big
a
app.
mega app.
I'm glad that all got put together. Can't always, say that we're gonna have a podcast like this all summer, but we're gonna do our best. It's about to get real, real busy for, all of us here. So we're
That'll
gonna
be
do our
sweet.
best.
They just informed us that majority of those 35 inchers that are caught in the chain of the PMTT are, of driving license age. So that's
Yeah.
good to know.
Handle with care.
I
Handle
thought they
with
were
care.
little like 5-year-old squirts, but no, those things are seasoned.
Seasoned vets. And they still love a bucktail. It's crazy. All right. All right.
Every
Well,
month.
yeah. All right. Well, great pod, gents. Brian, let's take her away.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Musky's on Tap. Shout out to Rich Mantey. Shout out to Jozef and Matt with Taps and Tackle for coming on this mega pod tonight. Special shout out to Rich on an absolute megalodon that is the most elusive fish in Wisconsin. Incredible work there. Cannot wait to see the mount on that. Gentlemen, you got, 2 weeks now to the PMTT on home waters. Looking for revenge. Prediction? Early prediction?
No.
No.